waves, pools and eddies, trout are rising over the mayfly, and the sun is shining down on the valley. Hope to be a fly fish till the day that I die. Spring has thawed out the long bitter winter. The water is clear and the skies are blue. I'm standing in the middle of the Beaver Kill River. Might even catch and release one or two. Well, some folks like horses, cats or a dog. Me, I like fishing with a rod and a fly. Yes, fishing is a favorite pastime of mine. If I couldn't do it, I think I would cry. Well, life is good when I'm wading a river. It gets even better when I cast a fly. If I catch a trout, it don't really matter. It's fun just to be here and give it a try. Trout is rising in the far eddy. I make a false cast, then take my aim. If he takes the fly, I feel so much better. And if he doesn't, I'll feel no shame. Stoneflies and caddis and the riffles are plenty. Mayflies courting on fragrant breeze. And cedar wax wings come down from the heaven, wait for their dinner up in the pine trees. The water is cold and my waders leak, and it's raining now on my favorite stream. I'll bear it all, just fish with a feather, so when I sleep I will have a sweet dream. And life is good when I'm wading a river. It gets even better when I cast a fly. If I catch a trout, it don't really matter. It's fun just to be here and give it a try. Oh, ripples and waves, pools and eddies, trout are rising for the mayfly, and the sun is shining down on the valley. Hope to be a fly fish till the day that I die. Yes, I hope to be a fly fish till the day that I die.
New York City has the world's largest unfiltered water supply. Right now, the natural gas industry wants to drill in our watersheds. The process is called hydraulic fracturing. It uses over 900 chemicals injected under the ground, combined with explosives that cause many earthquakes to extract the gas. But the process hasn't been proven safe. Watersheds across the nation have been contaminated with plastics, carcinogens, mutagens, and endocrine-disrupting chemicals, and with explosive natural gas. Whoa! This cannot be allowed to happen here. Join Scott Stringer, Manhattan Borough President's Kill the Drill campaign, because we can't drink natural gas, and because there's no New York without New York water.
And that, to me, is the most alarming environmental news I've heard in a long time, and makes this the #1 environmental crisis that we face in the city.
A message from Scott Stringer, Manhattan Borough President, and waterunderattack.com.
I like the idea that this particular activity is isolated from the Federal Clean Water Act, when every other activity is still under the restrictions and observations of the Federal Clean Water Act. So, to us, it just doesn't make any sense, particularly when we have these reports that show toxic fluids are showing up in these injection activities, and the consequences of those toxic fluids are having adverse circumstances inflicted upon innocent people. And we have a number of reports ourselves on that. So this is just something that we're trying to deal with in the context of the legislation that Diane DeJet talked about a little while ago. We understand that several of the witnesses claim that there is no evidence. A lot of people claim that there's no evidence that fracking has caused water contamination. But we have seen that there is water contamination in a number of places, and I mentioned those places before. Alabama, Arkansas, Colorado, Texas. I had a call yesterday from a man in Texas that was talking about the impact of these toxic chemicals on his family and how it had contaminated his water supply. So that's why we're trying to deal with this issue. And I wanted to ask Mr. Appleton if you're aware of any of the independent empirical research that has been conducted that in any way suggests that fracking does not pose a risk to water supplies. Is there any proof out there?
Well, anytime you put chemicals like are used in fracking into the environment, it's a risk to water supply if they're not properly regulated. There's also a problem that in states like New York, they don't require incidents to be reported on a systematic basis, so you can't really determine this issue either way.
Okay.
For decades, the oil and gas industry has lobbied to create a regulatory climate which has paved the way for the current drilling boom. Back in 2000, after the Bush-Cheney election, there was a dramatic acceleration in drilling activity. Both had received large contributions from oil and gas interests, and the vice president had been the chief executive of Halliburton, a major player in the drilling industry.
Meeting the needs of our growing economy also means expanding our domestic production of oil and natural gas, which are vital fuels for transportation, electricity, and manufacturing.
Whatever our hopes for developing alternative sources and for conserving energy, and that's part of our plan, the reality is that fossil fuels supply virtually 100% of our transportation needs alone.
Many Democrats fought the Bush-Cheney energy policies. They felt they were shut out of the process of developing the nation's approach to energy.
This administration is a gas and oil administration, frankly, and so they're wedded to an old policy. They're wedded to a 20th century policy when we need a 21st century policy.
You have the Bush administration, you have two oilmen at the very top, and they aren't sympathetic.
They're making very serious mistakes because they've talked to themselves and the energy companies, and only themselves and the energy companies.
We don't know what other provisions may have been added in, special interest provisions that are easy to add in when you're writing one of these bills in secret.
In 2005, the administration's energy bill passed with support from members of both political parties. It provided the gas and oil industry with billions of dollars in subsidies, tax breaks, and research money.
65% of the current subsidies go to gas and oil, and you have this imbalance. We ought to have 65% or more, 80% ought to be going to alternative renewable technology, to energy efficiency.
The energy bill makes practical reforms to the oil and gas permitting process to encourage new exploration. After years of debate and division, Congress passed a good bill.
for $20 a pound.
There she is. We call it our new neighbor, neighbor 907.
We have 70 acres here, and I can't convince them that they need to drill somewhere besides 200 feet from our house.
The boom is happening all over the country. There's oil and gas operations in 32 states right now, but the Rocky Mountain states are really seeing the vast majority of the expansion.
This will be the gate to enter into my property. The old company had me completely locked out.
A split estate situation is when somebody who owns the surface of their land does not own the resources that are underneath their land. Whoever owns the surface probably can't control what happens on their own property.
You feel so helpless, you know. My great-grandfather is buried here. They totally wiped out the cemetery.
We have a very large emphasis about being a good neighbor, about doing the things that you would do in your neighborhood with your next door neighbor.
We were in bed actually sleeping, and then our son called. He said that the well was on fire.
See all them bubbles on that water up there, Bob?
Jesus, yeah.
That's all gas coming up.
Yeah, let's go ahead and light it. Oh yeah, it burns.
They don't tell you everything that's in a product. You may only get 5% of what's in that product, and the rest of it is proprietary, or they just don't give it.
Every single fracking company, they sell that theirs is the best product. It would be like divulging why your chocolate is better than somebody else's chocolate because you have those ingredients.
Hey folks, Curtis Mayfly here. With the shark guitar, of course. And today I'm going to be talking about the Troutwaters Youth Program that I run in the summer. In July. This year it's going to be July 17th through the 23rd of July. It's a very intense week of fly fishing, conservation, and work projects, whatever we can come up with during that time period in that area. And it's located in the Land of the Vikings Resort, which is near Sherman, PA, but it's also right near, it's on the border of Hale Eddy, right on the west branch of the Delaware. So we primarily fish the west branch of the Delaware all week long. And that's every night from 6 to 9, we're on the water with fishing buddies from Trout Unlimited on different sections of the west branch. So it's all fly fishing, and it's all catch and release. Another thing I'm doing this year, in association with the camp, well, first of all, let's get back to the camp. It's for 13 to 17-year-old students who want to learn how to fly fish and learn about conservation. It's co-ed, and you have a private room for 2 students each with a bath. And it's all the food for the week. It's breakfast, lunch, and dinner every night. There's conservation lessons, and we teach you how to fly cast. We teach you how to tie flies all week. We have some really good presenters like Warren Williams and Joe Goodspeed and Art Solomon there that help us learn some new tactics. We have Dave Lemon from DEC, and we get Diane Galusha from Catskill Watershed Corp, and she talks about the reservoir system, which is very important in our area when you're trying to fish for trout. So there's a lot of good things. We may go to the hatchery again this year. But there's a lot of good things to think about with the Troutwaters Youth Camp. This year I'm going to be doing an adult weekend fundraiser on May 13th, 14th, 15th. So it's Friday night. You're going to stay. You get there and have a dinner, and the bar will be open there. And then on Saturday morning we have breakfast. If you want to go fly fishing, knock yourself out. But for the beginners, we have fly casting and fly tying lessons at the Land of the Vikings with lunch there all through the day. Then in the evening, we'll match you up with some experts to go fly fishing with them so you can learn about fly fishing. Also during the day, we'll have Joe Goodspeed doing a check nymphing type presentation, and he'll be doing the same one in the afternoon. Art Solomon will be doing spey casting, so you can take that in the morning and afternoon, so you can go to Joe Goodspeed in the morning or in the afternoon, or vice versa. So you'll get a lot of good education there. So that's the
Trout Waters Adult Weekend is May 13, 14, 15, and the Trout Waters Youth Camp, which is July 17th through the 23rd. Both events are have a fee. The youth program is $400 per student, but that's there are grants available, etc. The adult weekend is $175 per person. It's all your food and lodging, and again, it's a fundraiser, so we need to make some money on it. So we hope to see you there.
Ripples and waves, pools and eddies, the trout are rising for the mayfly. The sun is shining down on the valley. I hope to be fly fishing till the day I die. Spring has thawed out the long bed of winter. The water is clear and the skies are blue. I'm standing in the middle of Beaver Kill River. Might even catch and release one or two. Life is good when I'm waiting on a river. It gets even better when I can't fly. If I get you trout, it don't really matter. It's fun just to be here and give it a try. Ripples and waves, pools and eddies, the trout are rising for the mayfly. The sun is shining down on the valley. I hope to be fly fishing till the day I die. Spring has thawed out the long bitter winter. The water is clear and the skies are blue. I'm standing in the middle of the Delaware River. Might even catch and release one or two. Stoneflies and caddis and the ripples are plenty. The mayflies are courting on a fragrant breeze. The cedar wax wings come down from the heavens and wait for their dinner up in the pine trees. Trout is rising in the far eddy. I make a false cast and then take my aim. If he takes the fly, I feel so much better. And if he doesn't, I feel no shame. Ripples and waves, pools and eddies, the trout are rising for the mayfly. The sun is shining down on the valley. I hope to be fly fishing till the day I die. Spring has thawed out the long bitter winter. The water is clear and the skies are blue. I'm standing in the middle of the Rwsea River. I might even catch and release one or two. Water is cold and my waders leak, and it's raining now on my favorite street. But I'll bear it all just to fish with feathers, so when I sleep I can have a sweet dream. Life is good when I'm waiting on a river. It gets even better when I cast a fly. If I catch a trout, it don't really matter. It's fun just to be here and give it a try.
This hatchery stocks the southeastern 13 counties in New York, including Long Island, such as Putnam, Westchester, Orange, Rockland, Sullivan, Delaware, Ulster, Greene, Schoharie, and sometimes Columbia. We go out, we go with the truckload. No two tanks here. We have a two tanker, but we don't go down with partial loads. All two tanks. You'll see the trucks up here. When they head out here, particularly early in last week of August. Last year.
Oh, I got it. Pretty smart.
Them tapping that rod is the conditioned response. It's their natural curiosity, branch instinct that tap something in the water and they go, oh heck, I got some food after doing that.
Oh, again.
How come I'm taller than you? Well, that's just it, you know, not everything can be the same is what it comes down to. I know it's kind of a funny answer, but, you know, some have more spots, some don't have any.
Yeah, there's a couple over here that have diseases. There's one in here that's just massive. It's like fat. It's like 30 inches. Look at that one right there under us. What?
And estimate, like, how many miles of a section of stream is spawnable. Yeah, spawnable. Or where they would use it too big, the eggs wash away. Too light, the eggs would smother. Like if they built a red in sand, and then they cover it back over, the sand would smother. Toggle squish, but the 12 small ones, they monitor each aerator. So that way when you're driving down the road, you can turn that black knob and see how many amps the aerator is drawing. If it's drawing too little, the water's too low. If it's drawing too much, the water's too high.
Well, you got a fish.
Yeah, they got pretty active.
There's one.
I know, we got crane flies?
Yeah. They've been having a fight with the stonefly. Bit off his tail.
There's the
See that?
Oh,
wow,
where's our
You see that?
these rods? You gave him these rods. He carries them.
Get him out.
Real nice. He is. Yeah, that's outstanding. I like this.
The hills are alive with the sound of music.